And then Rishi Sunak comes out and he says, I will pledge to bring down inflation. And I was thinking, this guy. That is like me saying, right, we're filming this in January, that's me saying, I'll pledge in the next 6 months to bring the temperature up by at least 10 degrees. Yeah, go on, what do you want to ask?
I mean, you even touched on it just now, but you've talked about how important accountability is, and that people should be, held accountable for their predictions. I don't know if you caught it in the news today, but Rishi Sunak's made some predictions.
Oh, okay, yeah. This is good. I'm glad you asked me this.
Is this not what you wanted?
All right, so this is funny, right? So today, Rishi Sunak has come out with his 5 big pledges. Is it 5? 5 pledges?
Something like that.
And pledge number 1, maybe, is that he's going to cut inflation in half. And this is funny, right? Because me and Sim, the guy who does the videos, me and Sim was talking earlier today and about predictions. And I said, inflation will come down. And we know inflation will come down because every month you have inflation, right? And then the number they show you on the news is the annual inflation. So it's the last 12 months, right? And the big inflation months last year were, I think, like April, May, maybe March, April, May, big inflation months, right? So we know that in 6 months' time, those massive months will drop out of the data. So we know with almost certainty that inflation is going to come down really quickly. And I was saying, like, if we wanted to be cheeky, we could go on the channel and we could make a prediction inflation will come down, even though really it's obvious that it will come down, even though it's definitely will come down. And then Rishi Sunak comes out and he says, I will pledge to bring down inflation. And I was thinking, this guy. That is like me saying, right, we're filming this in January, that's me saying, I'll pledge in the next 6 months to bring the temperature up by at least 10 degrees. You know, like we know with almost certainty already this thing will happen, right? And he's saying, me, Rishi Sunak, I'm going to do this. This guy's a joke, right? This guy's such a joker. But, I mean, what can you say, man? Cheers, Rishi Sunak. It's a good strategy, He will succeed at least in that one part of his 5-point policy because any fucker could succeed in the thing that was going to happen anyway. But well done. And I think what we should add, inflation coming down does not mean prices coming down. Inflation is the rate of increase in prices. So he just means that prices are going to stop going up as fast as they were. So, it don't make things better. What he's saying is, I'm going to make the rate at which your life is getting worse a bit slower. So well done, billionaire Rishi Sunak. I'm sure the country will be proud of your work.
You use the word joke, I think you're right, but I don't know, part of me thinks the joke's on us because it will work. People will be like, yeah, he said it and it's happened, so...
Personally, I don't think that Rishi Sunak is very popular. I don't think he will be very popular. And I think this is... I'm an economist, not a politician, right? But first of all, I think the guy does not come across as very human or very understanding of ordinary people. Did you see the clip the other day of him in the soup kitchen asking a homeless man if he's thinking about getting into finance?
It's beyond belief.
Yeah. So I think he's not very personally likable. I think he's quite out of touch. You see the clip when he was a kid, when he was saying, I've got friends who are upper class, friends who are middle class, friends who are working class. Well, not working class. Did you see that one? This is a very wealthy guy from a very wealthy family. I never met him. He could be personally a very nice guy. We don't know. He might be. But beyond his personal failings, I think the main reason why Rishi Sunak will not be popular is because the economic situation is going to get worse. It's going to get worse. And it's bad, right? What is happening is bad. And it's going to get worse. And the reason I know that is because, as I've been speaking about from the beginning, in the last 3 years, there's been a massive transfer of cash from the government to the rich. The rich are still sitting on that money. They will use that money to buy the assets from the middle class, to drive up things like house prices, to drive up things like stock prices, which makes the rich richer and makes it harder for middle class people to move up. So we know the middle class will shrink. We know life will continue to become more unaffordable for ordinary people. We know these things will happen. And we know there's no mechanism to reverse that because once the rich get richer, they buy more assets from the middle class. Middle class gets poorer, which means that the rate of inequality increases more because the middle class has less assets and the rich has more assets. So we know things will get worse. And ultimately, at the end of the day, the speed at which life is getting worse now, people are not going to accept it. Of course, people are not going to accept it. And I wouldn't be surprised, this is not expecting the betting market, I wouldn't be surprised if Rishi Sunak is replaced before the next election because he's that unpopular. I don't think it will get bought. I don't think it will be bought. I think that he will not be popular. I think the Conservatives will lose the next election. But as I've spoken about many times on the channel, my big fear is not that the Conservatives win the next election, although I hope that they don't. It's that the Labour wins the next election, they don't do anything about wealth inequality, things continue to get worse, and then people start feeling like, well, we need something more extreme, you know. We need something more extreme, and then we, you know. What is happening now, in terms of the rapid decrease in living standards, the rapid increase in inequality, very similar to the 1920s and 1930s. You know, look what happened then. You know, Europe fell into fascism. We had the Second World War, we had the Holocaust, we had the Nazis, you know. I'm not saying these things will happen again, you know, and I pray to God that these things do not happen again. But people will vote for something sensible 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, maybe 6 times. And if every single time their life gets worse and worse and worse, eventually they'll vote for something insane. And you can understand why they would do that, right? So, you know, I take a step back from Rishi Sunak and I look at the global picture, and I think this is important. People understand that what is happening in the UK is not happening just in the UK. Like, it is true that the UK has had a particular dive in the last 5-6 years. Living standards have fallen a lot. But living standards are falling everywhere for the average person. In the United States, which is supposed to be the richest country in the world. In Western Europe, even in countries like Germany, which I consider to be rich. You know, I lived in Japan for 2 years. I know Japan very well. Even in Japan, life is getting worse and life is getting harder, especially if you don't come from a family with assets, right? So, and some of these countries have left-wing governments, right? You know, the Democrats are in charge in the US. Spain and Germany both have left-wing governments, right? And they are, even in those cases, massive increase in inequality during COVID, massive decrease in living standards. So this is a problem that is bigger than the Conservatives, Labour, Republicans, Democrats, right? This is about an understanding of the importance of wealth inequality and a willingness to make that change, in spite of the fact that most major political parties are funded by billionaires, right? Or very wealthy people. So I think what we need to do, and the people who support this channel need to do, we need to really build that bridge between wealth inequality is bad from an ethical, moral perspective, and wealth inequality is fucking your fucking lives, your family, your economy, in a way that will get worse and worse and worse. You know, I've used this analogy a number of times on the channel, that wealth inequality is a cancer. And I know that is strong language, and I don't use it accidentally. The reason I use that language is because wealth inequality is a thing which, if left to its own devices, will grow and will grow and will grow and will grow. And it will suck the wealth out of the middle class. And it will leave you with a very unequal economy. Like the economy in Brazil, for example. That is what will happen here. You know, and that is like a cancer. If you don't do anything about it, it grows and it grows and it grows and it grows. And it sucks away the resources that you need, and eventually you will die. You know, this is... I don't understand everything about the economy, but I understand this one thing. If you allow this thing to grow unchecked, it will destroy everything. It will make the NHS unaffordable, and we will lose it. We will make education unaffordable, and we will lose it. It will make housing unaffordable, and we will lose it. And this is not a UK-specific problem, you know. We've been getting a lot of messages from America lately, and what do they say? Every single one of them says the same thing. It's the same in the USA.
Australia.
Even, you know, Australia, which is considered a very wealthy country, right? Every single one of these messages, it's the same thing, it's the same thing, it's the same thing. And, you know, at the same time, you know, the government wants to say, oh, it's because of foreigners, it's because of Brexit. Right? This is an international problem. And you're not going to fix it by voting these people out, right? In the end, you need to demand a reduction in wealth inequality. And you need to say, I'm not going to vote for anyone that doesn't give us a reduction in wealth inequality. You know, listen, if, you know, okay, I've been quite critical of the Conservatives on this channel. If they were to turn around and really convince me that they were going to reduce wealth inequality, I would vote for them and I would tell the viewers to vote for them. Because that is what matters. What matters is that you kill this cancer. That is what matters. You need to get rid of this. You need to deal with this thing. And I don't think they will do that because the Prime Minister is worth £770 million and his father-in-law is one of the richest men in the world.
money currently is flowing from the government to the rich, leaving the government with big piles of debt and the rich with big piles of money.
There is one other thing they can do with that massive amount of income. They can buy your mum's house.